Well, here we are with our first repeat customer.
Second repeat customer.
Second.
Yeah, didn't we have was it my dad?
Your dad did.
My dad
Well,
did too.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that's true.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you there, pal.
No, that's all right. That's all right. Once again, I'm Rob. This is Scott.
Hello.
And our repeat customer, second repeat customer, is Brian Henderson. By request, we're going to talk more about his airplane today. We know his story. Now we're going to get the airplane story. But first, as the non-pilot, I got to ask you, what are these?
So those are counterweights. So the way that you have two basic propeller setups, you have a fixed pitch propeller. So in basic airplanes, the propeller just is at a fixed pitch and it does not move. And that's essentially a compromise for all the different phases of flights. So you have takeoff, climb out, cruise, and then obviously descent and landing. And you need performance out of the propeller. If the propeller doesn't move, like I said, that's a compromise. So the engineers came up with an idea where you can actually move the blades, the angle of the blades as the propeller is spinning, and that's done by a control in the cockpit, a propeller control. And so these counterweights, obviously with the rotation of the propeller, will keep the propeller from overspeeding when you change different angles of the propeller. So
Okay. So these can be, the pitch can be changed in flight.
Yeah.
So I had thought some of these, you could adjust them, but you did it on the ground.
So essentially what this is oil filled from the engine. So the oil pushes it in one direction, and then when you don't have the oil pressure, you cut the oil pressure off. That's when the weights come into play and they move them back.
Okay.
So essentially if you have an engine failure, it'll turn it back where it needs to be.
Like feathering?
Yeah. Well, not feathering.
Not feathering.
Yeah, they don't, because it's a single engine, they don't feather. Yeah. So that's basically what that is. It's a pretty rudimentary, as far as, propellers go, but it works. So.
Well, obviously it's been working.
yeah, and it's to optimize performance for each phase of flight.
Yeah.
So for takeoff, climb out.
Yeah, climbing out. Okay, cool.
So I guess, we didn't really, explain, you have an SNJ-2. So it's a pretty early version, 1940 it was
1940,
built?
yeah. So I did a little research on the kind of the history of the T6s or the SNJs. So North American Aviation is the company that built these airplanes, and the original design was around 1935, and around 1938 is when more of the production line airplanes started to be produced. They kind of refined the prototypes. And so the Army obviously took orders of the airplane, and they originally called it a BC-1, which was a basic combat trainer number 1. And then eventually they changed it to AT-6, so advanced trainer number 6. The Navy had a different naming system at that time. So Navy and Marine Corps airplanes were designated as SNJ, and that stood for Scout Trainer Built by North American. So
the J is North American.
The J is North American, and I don't know how you get trainer out of N.
Out of N.
Scout, S for Scout
Welcome to the government.
Makes sense. You also have airplanes that were built in Canada for the Canadian Air Force and also the Royal Air Force in the UK, and those were known as Harvards. And then you have even airplanes that were licensed built in Australia, and those are called Wirraways.
Wirraways.
And that term is actually an Aboriginal term, and it means challenge. So this airplane has many nicknames, pilot maker, and it is definitely a challenge to fly, and so I guess that's why Wirraway stuck with the Australians.
So you brought up earlier when we were just talking about the name Texan. I thought that was kind of interesting. I didn't know the history of how it became known as Texan.
Right. So North American, their plant was originally in Inglewood, California, and Dutch Kindleberger, he was the head of North American at the time, and he realized that remember, this is before the war started, so this is kind of mid to late 1930s. The Navy and the Army was starting to put a lot more requests for an advanced trainer for pilot training, and Kindleberger realized that he needed to build a new manufacturing plant, and so they decided to build it in just outside of Dallas, Texas, to be close to where most of the Navy and the Army training bases were for flight training. So this airplane and those in its category, so the SNJ-1 and the SNJ-2, as well as the AT-6As, they were all built in Inglewood, California, and the official name Texan was not adorned until the airplanes that were built in Texas. So anything like SNJ-3 or AT-6B and beyond, those are all technically the true Texans.
So this isn't a Texan.
This is what the the Navy called it a Jaybird, actually.
Yeah.
And the Army planes that were built out of Inglewood, they were just known as sixes. So that was kind of interesting when I was doing the research. So yeah, technically this is not a Texan, it's a Jaybird.
Well, we wouldn't impugn a Navy airplane with an Army name.
Right.
No,
Yes.
of course not. So another interesting feature of your airplane that I haven't seen before, this giant bulb down here on the bottom of this thing.
Right, and that's probably the easiest way to identify an SNJ-2. So, remember that the Army and the Navy were both requesting these airplanes, and the Navy had a couple differences in their requirements, and so the SNJ-2, there was only 61 of them built, and they were built in two separate batches. There was a batch of 36 and then a batch of 25. This serial number was in that first 36 grouping, and for the SNJ-2, the Navy had requested a larger fuel capacity. So this airplane does not have individual fuel tanks. It's what they call a wet wing.
A wet wing, yeah.
So the whole wing and the center part of the wings box contains fuel. So at the time, the T6s and the other SNJs only had 110 gallons in their two individual tanks. This one has 180 gallons. And because the wing box contains fuel, that bulb, or fairing, really, it's just a fairing, is to cover the fuel transfer plumbing, essentially.
The
so
valves.
it's basically external, whereas the other airplanes.
It's kind of interesting. So it's almost like the P40 has the same kind of thing underneath it, but it's bigger.
Yeah.
But all the fuel plumbing and everything's like on the outside of the wing, and then they just have a fairing around it.
Yeah.
It's pretty bizarre looking.
Yeah, exactly. So,
So it's not a drop tank. It's not, a bomb rack. It's
Nope.
not
No.
radar.
Just
Yeah.
a-
You probably hear it all when you.
Well, and you
exactly.
can make all kinds
Yeah,
of cool stuff
you can
up.
call it whatever you want,
It's my electronic countermeasures.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there you go.
That's my targeting pod.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the reason for it, and that's an easy way to identify the SNJ-2, because
It was only the twos?
the twos are the only ones that have the wet wing out of all of the variants.
Well, we should walk around a little bit and just kind of take a look at this very interesting paint
Yeah.
scheme.
Well,
I mean,
and you said this is the basic pre-war Navy paint scheme of blue and yellow.
Yeah, so in the previous video we talked about the owner had it modeled after Aubrey Fitch's personal airplane. So Aubrey Fitch being a two-star admiral, and he was the commander of Carrier Division 1 in 1940 and 1941. So he was given a personal SNJ-2, and the paint scheme is replicates how he had his airplane set up, and because World War I for the United States started in December of 1941.
World War II.
Or sorry, World War II started in December 1941, This airplane has the pre-war paint scheme. So you can see the roundel on the wing there, and the
red meatball.
The big red ball.
They gave up on that pretty quickly.
Yes. With the Japanese a little bit. Yes. And then a lot of people look at the tail with the red, white, and blue on the tail, and they seem to think, well, is this a French airplane? And no, it's not. That's how we had our airplane, or the Navy airplanes, Navy Marine Corps planes, were painted in that that rendering. The 2 stars. So I did find a photograph of the actual serial number that Aubrey Fitch had, and the photo that I saw, you can't see the actual stars on it. You just see like a box, and I didn't understand it. It was just basically a metal bracket, and they would put the stars in there when he was flying the airplane.
Oh, really?
Because if you think about it, not everybody, he's not the only one that's going to only fly the airplane. So if you're just you're just a lieutenant or something, and
you
you're
don't
flying,
want 2 stars,
and you show up and everybody's saluting you and got the red carpet for you. So so obviously when they repainted this to be the replica, they just put the actual stars on.
I don't think you'd want a plate flapping around next to your
and
next to your cockpit.
It's a little bit of an unfortunate story. So the actual airplane that was Aubrey Fitch's crashed in Southern California. So there were some Wildcats that were being delivered out to the Naval Air Station in San Diego, and kind of typical Southern California Marine layer, all that stuff. The pilots ended up crashing. They got disoriented in the bad weather, and so then the Navy sends out a search and rescue team, and an ensign was flying the Aubrey Fitch's plane, or the serial number that was Aubrey Fitch's plane, and unfortunately he ended up crashing. I did see that somewhere, I guess they recovered what was remained of the airplane, and maybe there's a restoration project. I'm not sure. It was an old website, so I'm not sure how.
Say with the price of, you got to wait a few more years because they're getting a little more expensive. But I think with the way the prices are right now, it would cost double to restore something.
Yeah, and like I said, it was an old website, so who knows that it could have. Just died on the vine.
So this thing's got a really interesting rudder on it too. I don't think I've never seen an SNJ or a Texan with that kind of a square rudder.
Right. Yeah. So because this is one of the earlier variants, they were having just through the engineering and trial and error, the North American test pilots, they started realizing that they needed a little bit more directional control. And so they reshaped the tail and flattened the bottom. The normal, I wouldn't say normal, but the later variants, they had more of a triangular shaped tail rather than this big round tail. But the weird thing is if you actually look at the shape of it, this is a larger rudder.
Yeah, it's a much larger rudder. I would have figured that they would use this to get more control.
Would have stayed. But all the books that I've read, they say that in the early versions they needed more directional stability, and so they gave it a bigger tail, and then the later ones they made it a smaller tail. So
maybe they wanted to give everybody more of a challenge.
Well, and I think it's they built a lot of deficiencies into the airplane on purpose. So maybe that was a problem. Maybe it was a problem. It's too stable, and now we need to make pilots out of these guys. They're going to be jumping out of this into a Corsair or a Wild. Imagine landing a Wildcat.
Yeah.
Have you seen a Wildcat up close?
Yes.
Yeah.
With the little gears.
That is the scariest looking airplane. Yeah. I'm like, how does anybody land that thing?
Well, the F3F's got the same gear.
Well, it's the same airplane essentially.
Yeah.
But the F3F has even less visibility.
Yeah.
So those are the real pilots.
Yeah. And
so maybe that's what it was. It was too stable.
But I think. Well, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we were talking about aircraft carriers in the previous episode, and so the SNJ-2 was not a carrierized airplane.
Yeah.
The 3, 4, and 5, SNJ 3, 4, and 5, if they have a C designator on it, they had a tail hook put in place. And the tail hook, I was looking at the fuselage and stuff, and I was like, well, where would you put it? So it was
right by the lift.
Yeah,
hole?
so it was forward of the tail wheel, and obviously it extended down when you came aboard the aircraft carrier, and they actually did I was trying to figure out, well, did you do like a 3-point landing or was it like a wheel landing? And it looks like from the photos that I've seen, they came in and basically did a wheel landing and had an engagement with the hook, because the hook's going to, in flight, the hook was extended lower than the tail wheel.
Huh.
So you just kind of came in and I guess more of like a flatter approach.
That's pretty interesting, because I read, I fly in the T6 and you got the flight manual from back in the day, and nowhere in there do they talk about wheel landings. Everything's a 3-point landing, 3-point landing.
Yeah.
So that's pretty interesting that they would
That's my
change
guess.
that.
That's my guess. I mean, the photos that I've seen, there's no videos at least that I could find.
Of the T6 carrier
but
landings.
But the photos, it at least appears that they're engaging more in a wheel landing attitude. But it would definitely be a challenge for sure.
Well, but they flew carrier quals off of Sable and Wolverine.
Yep.
In these things. George H.W. Bush.
Yeah, he did
his
it.
carrier quals in an SNJ on one of those.
Yeah, in the Great Lakes, and I think that's just another unique story. Like I said, we talked about my naval flight training and how it is, even currently. You go to an active operational aircraft carrier.
Yeah.
And back then, they didn't have the ability to do that. They didn't have any dedicated training carriers, and the operational ones were not,
they were out of service.
They were busy. So, so the United States Navy came up with an idea to take 2 Great Lakes transport boats and modify them, stick a flat top on them, and all those guys left out of Glenview Naval Air Station and carrier qualled in the Great Lakes.
Well, that also kept all of your young puppies well inside the continental United States. You're not risking them out at sea.
Yeah, you don't need to worry about seeing a U-boat or something like that pop up when you're trying to carrier qual.
Well, one of the things, as we talk about Aubrey Fitch, yes, he was Commander Carrier Division 1, but as I looked into it, this guy already had 20-some years of service before he went to Pensacola.
Yeah.
He must have been one of those senior guys like Halsey and King, but the difference being that Fitch was a no-kidding aviator, not a, sort of a gentleman's winged. So I think he graduated the academy in 06 and went to Pensacola in 29.
Yeah.
So he had already
established himself.
They'd scraped all the pounds of flesh that the surface Navy does off of this guy before he went to flight school. But when the war kicked off, he was the most experienced carrier admiral we had. Mm-hmm. Fletcher actually turned tactical control over to him in Coral Sea. He fought the naval battles off of Guadalcanal, and then went on to be commander of Air Solomons or South Pacific. He was, the real aviation admiral in those days.
Yeah, and I think it's cool because, everybody knows Nimitz and Halsey and, some of those guys, Spruance, but, he was one of the big time admirals, and kind of as a homage to him, that's what this airplane represents.
So was his original airplane a C? Did he have a hook on his original?
No.
So how is he?
Yeah, so the way I understand it, because I found there's in the Naval Archives, there's a painting that somebody did that has a T6 or an SNJ-2 painted just like this alongside in formation with a Vought Vindicator and dive bomber, and apparently that he also had his own Vindicator.
Oh, okay.
And my assumption is that when he went out to the aircraft carrier and he took the Vindicator out there because...
Well, they just didn't want him flying anything good, did they?
No. And
they didn't trust him with the good stuff.
Yeah, they called it the wind indicator, and by that time, that was out of service. They got slaughtered at Midway.
Yeah,
and
you'd think he'd be
taken
flying
out
an
of service.
SBD or something at least, you know.
I would hope a
think.
two-star would have the juice to get
what he needed.
something better.
Yeah, so a lot of the SNJ-2s, so I did find actually, Bill Dude helped me find the history of this actual airplane. So it was built in April 1940 in Inglewood, and then the Navy received it in June of 1940, and it served from 1940 to 1946 in Corpus Christi, Pensacola, and Norfolk. And I might be in Corpus Christi and Pensacola being training bases. Obviously, they're going to be training pilots, and then I figured Norfolk, you know, a lot of times they'll use them as a station airplane. So if either somebody needs to get recurrent or something, or they need to just take it, you know, you had to go
Pick
from
something up.
utility hop.
Yeah, like somebody had to go
Beer
over to
run.
like Pax River or something like that. Yeah, they just take the station airplane, and we still have that in the active services now. Each air base has like a couple station airplanes. So that's my assumption of what this airplane was used for, and it's kind of sentimental because I started in Pensacola, and you know, this thing was training Navy and Marine Corps pilots in Pensacola.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful airplane. And you really couldn't have done much better finding an airplane to fly.
I got lucky.
So, and also another difference on this one is the SNJs didn't have the steerable tail wheels like the AT6s did, but you have the steerable tail wheel on this,
so
right?
when we look in the cockpit, I'll show you there's actually still the lever to lock the tail wheel. Obviously, it makes it a lot harder to operate when you're just either castering or straight lock. But yes, when they restored this airplane, they put the steerable tail wheel in. I appreciate that.
There are some improvements.
Creature comforts are a little important.
Well, but I understand on a carrier airplane, you do not want that tail wheel moving. Would that be the thing?
Well, I mean, I would think that you're just trying to capture the hook anyways.
Yeah.
You know, so you're not coming in and planning it and trying to keep it straight and then grab the hook.
No,
you're hitting the hook and then you're not moving.
Yeah.
So that's why you'll find on a lot of the carrier airplanes that the hard solid wheel.
Yeah.
Because they're not moving them. You know, but then when we move them out here and have to taxi 2 miles, you know, they come in and they're on fire and smoking and falling apart, you know, because it's just so much heat and it's not made for that. But
and you know, I guess they had most of the ships were wooden decks as well.
Yeah.
So they weren't getting torn up by like non-skid and all that stuff.
All the U.S. carriers in World War II were wood decks.
Yeah.
The Brits armored theirs, but that's where the term plank owner comes from.
Plank
if
of
you
wood.
were part of the commissioning crew of an aircraft carrier, you were supposedly entitled to part of a plank from the flight deck when you left.
Yeah.
But it did make them easy to repair.
Yeah. It's just, you know,
probably didn't stop bombs very well though.
No, not at all.
Which in wartime is important.
Yeah.
It's kind of like having the P-38 having the intercooler in the wing. It's a great idea until you start getting shot at. Then it's a different idea.
Kelly Johnson was not a warrior. He was an engineer.
Yeah.
A brilliant one, but
and it worked great until it didn't.
Until it didn't.
Until you got battle damage.
So what do you think? You want to jump up in this thing and show us kind of a start sequence? And I'd like to, go through some of the differences maybe between the SNJ and the AT6.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds
cool.
good. All right.
So here we are in your amazing cockpit. Obviously, it's not completely stock because you got creature comforts and obviously modern equipment to get you from A to Z safely as possible.
Yep.
And I know that you just put all that in, right? That's all pretty new stuff.
Yeah. So really, if you look at it, obviously this is the nice new avionics and GPS. Sure.
Battery it up.
Yeah.
Kind of get a look at it.
Sure.
I mean, look at all this Neat stuff.
Yeah, so everything that's not digital is kind of period specific, how it would be prior to the war, or during the war, I would say.
Yeah.
And then what I just did is Garmin makes some pretty fancy displays that will fit inside these round gauges. So it's called a GI 275, and then you've got your your regular
maps and
fancy
weather.
fancy
It's all
stuff.
touch screen. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, so that helps, and there you go. There's your primary attitude indicator, and then you also have the HSI move-in map and stuff.
So do you have to go to like a 6-month school to even learn how to run all that stuff?
Garmin does a good job with
instructional manuals.
It's
about that thick, right?
When all else fails, read the directions,
Yeah.
right? But if you look at for the aviators in the house, you're used to seeing, most people are used to seeing your primary attitude indicator, but this is what the 1940 attitude indicator looked like. And when I go out and do aerobatics and stuff, because it's just an old gyro, a lot of times you'll do a loop or something, and then this thing is just spinning all over the place trying to recalibrate itself, whereas this stays pretty steady.
That's pretty awesome.
Well,
that's nice. That must be really nice when you're going somewhere to be able to just kind of have those clean displays and not have to worry about the old stuff.
Yeah, it's a big help. It's obviously, I'm not trying to fly this in really bad weather and stuff, but it definitely.
But being in Colorado, you're definitely going to find some weather at some point.
Yeah, and creature comforts. So it definitely helps out.
Yeah. So run us through a startup on this thing. Like, what would you do to get this thing running?
Sure. So if you notice here, so here's your engine gauges. There you go. So we don't have a whole lot of fuel pressure right now. And it's also given you your fuel pressure warning light. So obviously the engine needs fuel to operate. So the first thing that you'd have to do is you got to prime the engine. The primer's down here. I'm just going to
act like it.
Act like it.
Out or nothing, yeah.
So you would pull the primer out, and then you start to use what's called a wobble pump, and you would start to pump pressure. So like that, and then do it multiple times, and you would start to see the fuel pressure build up, and then you can prime the engine.
Four primes? Is that what you use?
This one needs a little bit more.
Okay.
So each end, the book says 4 to 6.
Yeah.
This one needs a little bit more. You kind of, each airplane's got its own little
you got to learn
quirks.
Yeah, absolutely.
6 is a good one, and it usually takes about 2 to 3 to actually, even though you push the primer in, like you haven't actually sent any fuel into the engine. So a little bit more.
And this kind of just shows how it's all kind of analog still, because a lot of the, you get into the fighters and you got an electric boost pump, you got electric primers, and so you're just kind of flipping switches, but here you're actually up here moving.
Yeah.
You're physically moving stuff. And
yeah, and I probably should start over here as well. So these are your 3 primary controls that you're going to be using mostly when you're flying the airplane. So obviously right now everything is off.
Correct.
But here's your throttle for the power on the engine. This is your fuel mixture control. So obviously it's off. You would have it full forward to send maximum gas into the engine. And then this is your propeller control. So like what we were talking about with the constant speed propeller, you've got an RPM gauge here, and this will indicate the RPM of your propeller, and you're going to control that RPM with this lever here.
Yeah, and what's kind of interesting about the SNJs is they have you, when you shut off at the end of the day, you actually pull the propeller all the way back to full decrease. And the reason for that is because when you go to make a cold start the next time you run it, that actually cuts off the oil.
Yeah.
So you're not pumping oil through the prop. So it actually gives you oil right into the engine, immediately get your oil pressure up. Once your oil pressure is up, then you push the prop forward.
Yep.
So it's kind of an interesting.
Yeah, and also I heard your T6 has the spinner cover This one does not, and I read somewhere that because most of these airplanes, obviously in training command, they're sitting outside. If you, it's kind of a dual purpose, I would say. If you leave this full forward when you shut down, the prop hub, basically the spinner is actually fully extended, and so
it leaves it more exposed.
So they wanted you to cover it up to prevent any dirt and grime.
Well, that makes sense.
Or stuff. So, but you're and you're also right, just the way the oil flows.
All right, so we got mixtures up. You would crack the throttle about a quarter inch maybe on the throttle. You got your pressures up. You've already primed the engine. Now what?
Yeah, so then that becomes the hard part, and you got to start getting good at it. So right now the control's locked, so I'm going to unlock the control. And because we're a tailwheel airplane, before you start, you need to make sure that the elevator is up so that you're putting pressure on the tailwheel. So, so this would be your configuration for start. Obviously your battery would be on. I turned it off. I'm just going to pull this back just so that we're not actually doing that.
Doing anything.
But your starter, you can see here, is a guarded switch. So you'd have the engine primed, fuel will be ready to rock and roll. You've got the battery on, so you've got electrical power. And you'd flip this switch up, engage the starter, which will start to turn the propeller blades. And then you have your magneto control, which is over here. I know it's probably hard to... There it is. So you can see it's off right now, left, right, and both. And so after about 4 blades come through on the propeller, turn the magneto to both. And then, like I said, so you're basically kind of like this configuration.
That's a lot different. You know, they changed that in the later models.
To get it to start, and then also, you know, feet up here on the brakes because...
You don't want to be rolling.
You don't want to start rolling. So it's a little bit of a challenge. And then once it comes to life... you're going to immediately go to your engine gauge
pressure
up here to make sure you got oil pressure, fuel pressure, and then you can move your propeller lever forward.
So they made it a little bit better. Like on ours, the starter switch is actually a pedal in between the pedals. So that's the starter. So you're just kind of with your foot, and then you just so you're not doing all the... You can still hold on to the stick. On the starter, and
it's you're a little bit contorted in the beginning, but you get, you know, it's like anything, you get hang of it.
Yeah.
So to go over some of the other differences, so we talked about the fuel pump. This is your trim. That's pretty standard on all the airplanes. Landing gear handle. So I'll kind of self admit that the first time I flew the airplane, I went to so I was trained in a T6G.
It's got a big handle.
Yeah, and
2 separate handles. Yeah.
It's a lot easier. I knew that I had to push this button. So if you can see that back here, so this is your hydraulic power actuator. So the hydraulics, you can see a hydraulic pressure indicator here. They're not always on. So you actually have to engage the hydraulic pump. So you push this button, you'll see the pressure, you know, come up, and now you know I have hydraulic pressure. But I went to try to lift the landing gear up, and you can see there's a detent here, and I couldn't get it to come up. And I'm in airplane by myself, and then I finally realized you actually have to pull it out and then up, and got it to go up. The flap handles right here, it works the same way.
So you push the hydraulic actuator, and then the system runs for about 20 seconds, right? Is it about a 20, 30 second?
Yeah, I mean, might even be a little bit longer. I'm not sure.
So the only 2 hydraulic systems in the airplane are the gear and the flaps.
Yep, exactly.
There aren't cow flaps or anything like that on this airplane.
No, but you need to make sure that you have pressure before you start moving stuff. And you'll even see, like with the flaps, so I'm not going to mess with the landing gear because there's no protection on the landing gear.
No.
But the flaps you can move down, and you'll see where the flap indicator, it'll start to move, but then the pressure will basically bleed off, and so you can stop them and then let the pressure come back up and then keep moving them down.
And then same thing in reverse.
And that's another difference between yours and ours, is we don't have the actuating system. We don't have to do, that's one less step we got to worry about.
Yeah.
You know, we want flaps, we put flaps in. We want gear down, we put gear down.
Yep. I think that you guys have the same system here. So
We don't have a hydraulic hand pump in there.
you don't. Okay.
In the airplane.
So
Actually, we do, but it's in the accessory section.
So I'll just show you. I'll show you
Which
here.
does a lot of good when you're out flying the airplane.
So if I wanted to put the flaps down and the landing, or sorry, and the hydraulic system didn't work, I've got a manual pump here, and I can pump. And if you watch, there you go. See how the flaps are starting to move.
The indicator, yep.
Yep. And I'm just basically controlling the valve here. So now I want it to go up, and you can see the pressure.
Yeah, hitting. Well, they move pretty fast too
Yeah.
for that. That's pretty nice. You don't have to do 1,000 pumps to
No.
get half flaps.
Right. So, and then I'll just there you go. So that's a if you want to call it a safety feature. If we're in, this is pretty standard for most pilots that are flying piston airplanes. So if you're in like a high humidity or cold weather, you can have carburetor heat. So this lever, you open this up and you'll send hot air into the
From the exhaust.
the exhaust into the engine to prevent any into the carburetor to prevent carburetor icing.
Which is a very bad thing when you're flying an airplane.
Yeah, and you think even back to the P-38 story, the first P-38 on its transcontinental flight crashed because of carb icing. So.
Well, there's one more thing I want to show the people at home, but it's going to require our guys moving around here, so we'll just cut this for a second.
Sure.
We'll switch spots. All right, so something else that we obviously don't have on ours, but you got on yours, I thought was really interesting, is you got what do you have over here? What is this?
So because the airplane was designed for scout training, one of the training missions was to scout. They installed a flare release system here, and you can see these two toggle switches. What you would do is in the back of the airplane, they had tubes, and you could put two, they were known as a Mark 4-1 parachute flare, and you could pull this lever. It would release the flare. About an 11-foot diameter parachute would open up, and it'd be an illumination flare to illuminate either the water or a land space that you could now identify, hey, whatever's underneath here, we want to pay attention. They also had this green thing here. This was a flare gun that you could obviously pull out and shoot individual flares yourself.
So the gun would attach to that?
I think the way that,
like you would attach the gun in here and then fire it yourself?
Yeah, I think so. That's one thing I wasn't, because it actually does. Yeah, it does go out the bottom. You can see.
Yeah, so that's probably what it is. It probably just clips in and then you just fire it.
Yep, exactly.
That's very cool. That's a pretty neat little feature you got there.
Yeah, so
make you pretty interesting at some air shows if you can. Add some flares to that thing.
The Hornet had some flares for infrared missile defense, but this was for
signaling.
For signaling, yeah, or illumination, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's very interesting. Thank you for showing us your airplane once again. Really appreciate it. And we'll finish this on the ground.
Cool. Well, one thing that came to me is, after this thorough cockpit check you've given Scott, if your airplane gets stolen, I think we know who the prime suspect is.
Well,
Yeah.
I can maybe do it.
Yeah.
Now that I know where the starter switch is,
Yeah.
I'd be like, how do you start this thing?
Yeah.
It's like teaching a millennial to drive a manual transmission.
Yep. Yeah.
So with this thing being, they only made 60-something of these things, do you have any idea of how many more the Dash 2s are out and about, or is this
We were just
maybe
wondering
one of the
about
only
that.
ones?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know that Geico, they had these sky typers for that they would do at the air shows. I don't even know if Geico sky typers still exist, but they did prioritize SNJ-2s because of the extra gas, because they're going all around
that makes sense,
different air shows. But this one was not a Geico SkyTyper. It's only got around like 3,000 hours on it. So
Really?
It's a really low time
No
airplane.
kidding. Especially being 1940s
Yeah.
and being all
mean,
the training
six-
bases.
After
and-
6 years of service.
6 years of service.
No
so
kidding.
it doesn't have a ton of time on it. I know that obviously the SkyTypers put a lot of time on their airplanes. I'm not sure how many airplanes in the SNJ-2 category are still flying. You don't, but you know, like I said, they only started with 61. So
Yeah.
Well,
can't
we
be
know
that
one
many.
of them's down.
yeah. So it'd be a good research project to try to find another one.
Well, maybe that's a subject for the third or whatever when we have you back the
or
third time.
or the viewers can tell us where.
there you go.
where
Yeah,
another
leave
one
it in
is.
the comments when you find it.
Yeah, the Joe
us know.
Bauer website is shut down, so I couldn't research the bureau numbers anymore. I wish I'd printed all those pages off.
Yeah. Well, this one is 2027, and it was number 30. I think 31 of the 36 in the first batch.
So
Well, it is a magnificent airplane. Once again, we really appreciate you bringing this thing out and showing us around and showing the viewers at home, you know, a little piece of history that they otherwise might not get to see or hear about.
Oh, yeah.
So, once again, Brian.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Thank you
This
very
is
much.
Great.
Really
Thanks for having
appreciate
me.
it.
Yeah. Excellent.
well, we conned Brian into bringing his airplane over again. I don't think it took a lot of persuasion.
No, and I enjoy having it here. I mean, it's a hell of a showpiece, you know.
It really is.
And it really gets people's eyeballs. But I mean, it was really neat to be able to walk around and talk about the differences and the kind of the extra little things that, you know, I'm not used to seeing in ours, and the stuff that, you know, most people wouldn't see. And the fact that you kind of see the modern with the old.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the mixture, the fact that you kind of meld those two and make it a really nice flying airplane.
Yeah, I can't imagine being such a purist that you're going to deny yourself modern avionics.
Oh,
I mean,
well.
come on.
That's kind of what we do around here, unfortunately. You know, you don't want to be able to hear anybody or talk to anybody when you're in the air. It gives you a good excuse to like ignore,
Yeah.
you know, ATC.
Sorry,
and they're
didn't
telling
hear.
you what to do, you know.
Yep.
Sorry, didn't hear.
Yeah. Nelson's
Proceeding
blind
as.
eye. Yep.
You know, obviously that's a joke, but
Yes, obviously that's.
so no, I
that's
mean
a joke.
it'd be really nice if, you know, to be able to have that and be able to communicate and to be able to see what's coming and weather, and especially around here, you know, the weather here is pretty atrocious and
pretty fast.
very fast. You know, you go an hour away and then when you come back, it's completely different.
Yeah.
So to be able to see all that, and I mean, we have that with our technology with the iPads and stuff like that, but to have it all in the airplane is pretty nice.
Yep.
And you can tell that he's, you know, Brian's really, it's new. He's new to all this, but he's really taken the stewardship pretty serious.
Absolutely.
And you get to see the more that he does research on it and dives into the history of the airplane, the more that he's really falling in love with it.
And as I said, every moment I see this airplane, I grow fonder of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we were just remarking that it's so appropriate for him, being a naval aviator, a gold-winged guy, to be flying this airplane in particular.
Yeah, and
To be flying an SNJ.
yeah.
And a very rare and early model. It's just completely appropriate.
Yeah. Yeah, we're really happy for him. We're happy to have him on our team
Yeah.
and have him on the airfield with us. And,
Yep.
and really appreciate him sharing this with us and everybody else out there.
Indeed. Well,
So yeah, we got other things going on.
we sure do.
Not a whole lot. Like I said, it's getting back to winter time.
Excuse me, there's a presentation on the 15th.
Oh, what? And who's doing that?
I don't know, some old guy,
Rob.
Rob, is doing.
Yeah, what is that
It's a
presentation?
non-fly day.
Yeah.
The title is Iwo Jima, a vital airbase, one at high cost, or something of that order. And that's 15th. Museum opens at the normal time. My bride keeps me to an absolute 40-minute limit because she said that's how long people can sit in those chairs.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
But so it's not just the Battle of Iwo Jima, it's the crucial airbase, and it was a vital airbase that was developed at the cost of 6,000 dead Marines, and it's the only time that our casualties exceeded the Japanese, but that includes our wounded. But 22,000 Japanese died on that island. It's quite a place.
That's crazy.
A couple of us have been there, and it's a place you remember.
Well,
so shameless
for the price
plug
of admission, you can come in and you can hear more of this lovely voice. So I'm looking
with
forward to that.
something to say.
Something else we got going on around here, though, that's very exciting and you might not get to see anywhere else is let's walk around and show you.
Absolutely.
So we're getting really close on this P40E project here at Westpac. So close, as a matter of fact, that in the next week we're going to be starting some engine runs. So we're going to be firing it up for the first time, and I don't even know how long it's been since this airplane's flown or run or anything else. So we're getting really, really close on it. As you can see, we're getting fairings put on, all the control surfaces. It got registered with the FAA this week, and we'll be doing pitot test. But like I said, the exciting thing is you get to come out again for the price of admission, and you might see this thing running.
Well, and hear that Allison. It's a
different sound with those open headers and. Yeah, it's a beautiful bird, man. We're really, really excited to get this thing alive again.
I bet you the owner's more excited.
I'm sure they are, definitely. So
it would be pretty cool to have your very own Warhawk.
And I don't think that we're going to be flying it just yet. I think we're going to be going through the process of getting paint put on it probably first.
Yeah, well, that's fair.
Yeah, so there is stuff going on here, even though it's winter.
And we should come around and look at this airplane as an Axis pilot would not want to see it.
Yeah.
From the front.
Yeah, it's beautiful lines.
Great looking airplane.
I mean, especially for an early, mid-30s design. I mean, and for what it was designed to do, it is a beautiful airplane. It far exceeded probably what it was designed to do.
Oh, absolutely.
And anybody's ever flown one, they'll tell you they really love. It's really nimble.
And that's the real testament. You don't always love the airplane that you're given to fly, and especially not in combat. But the guys who flew this airplane, I've never heard bad words about it.
So that's some of the fun stuff we got going on here at the museum.
Yep.
So come on out, pay the $15. I don't know what it is. $17.
Yeah, $17. Well, you can buy tickets online and save yourself a couple of bucks.
Or do the better thing.
Join the museum
membership.
You'll amortize that in a couple of visits, and it's a great way just to, I got a couple of spare hours. I'll just pop in and look at something. That's what I used to do when I first joined.
So if you like to keep an eye on what's going on around here, we're always very active on the social media. Just go on to Facebook, Instagram, go to our
YouTube
channel where you'll be able to see his presentation if you can't make it out here.
In a couple of months.
In a couple of months it goes out.
Yeah.
But we got a lot of cool things going on. We're keep things going. All on the social media. You can see a lot of the pictures from the fly day being shared. I was looking for the word. Couldn't find the word share. So,
caring and sharing.
I guess
always a good thing.
We're good to go.
We are good to go.
So thanks to Brian Henderson for once again bringing his airplane out and showing us this lovely airplane and sharing it with everybody.
And thanks to William for doing all the techie stuff.
William Stephenson behind the camera, my partner Rob Gale, and myself, Scott Clares.
Indeed.
Thanks for another episode of Winged Victory. Stay safe out there.
Yep.